Luke sat dejectedly on a log, put his head in his hands, and spoke softly to himself. "I can't do it. I can't go on alone." A voice floated down to him on the dim mist. "Yoda and I will be with you always." It was Ben's voice. Luke turned around swiftly to see the shimmering image of Obi-Wan Kenobi standing behind him. "Ben!" he whispered. There were so many things he wanted to say, they rushed through his mind all in a whirl, like the churning, puffed cargo of a ship in a maelstrom. But one question rose quickly to the surface above all the others. "Why, Ben? Why didn't you tell me?" It was not an empty question. "I was going to tell you when you had completed your training," the vision of Ben answered. "But you found it necessary to rush off unprepared. I warned you about your impatience." His voice was unchanged, a hint of scolding, a hint of love. "You told me Darth Vader betrayed and murdered my father." The bitterness he'd felt earlier with Yoda had found its focus now on Ben. Ben absorbed the vitriol undefensively, then patted it with instruction. "Your father, Anakin, was seduced by the dark side of the Force. He ceased to be Anakin Skywalker and became Darth Vader. When that happened, he betrayed everything that Anakin Skywalker believed in. The good man who was your father was destroyed, so what I told you was true from a certain point of view." "A certain point of view," Luke rasped derisively. He felt betrayed by life more than anything else, though only poor Ben was available to take the brunt of his conflict. "Luke," Ben spoke gently, "you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our point of view." Luke turned unresponsive. He wanted to hold on to his fury, to guard it like a treasure. It was all he had. He would not let it be stolen from him, as everything else had been stolen. But already he felt it slipping, softened by Ben's compassionate touch. "I don't blame you for being angry," Ben coaxed. "If I was wrong in what I did, it certainly wouldn't have been for the first time. You see, what happened to your father was my fault." Luke looked up with sudden acute interest. He'd never heard this, and was rapidly losing his anger to fascination and curiosity, for knowledge was an addictive drug, and the more he had, the more he wanted. As he sat on his stump, increasingly mesmerized, Artoo pedaled over, silent, just to offer a comforting presence. "When I first encountered your father," Ben continued, "he was already a great pilot. But what amazed me was how strongly the Force was with him. I took it upon myself to train Anakin in the ways of the Jedi. My mistake was thinking I could be as good a teacher as Yoda. I was not. Such was my foolish pride. The Emperor sensed Anakin's power, and he lured him to the dark side." He paused sadly and looked directly into Luke's eyes, as if he were asking for the boy's forgiveness. "My pride had terrible consequences for the galaxy." Luke was entranced. That Obi-Wan's hubris could have caused his father's fall was horrible. Horrible because of what his father had needlessly become, horrible because Obi-Wan wasn't perfect, wasn't even a perfect Jedi, horrible because the dark side could strike so close to home, could turn such right, so wrong. Darth Vader must yet have a spark of Anakin Skywalker deep inside. "There is still good in him," he declared. Ben shook his head remorsefully. "I also thought he could be turned back to the good side. It couldn't be done. He is more machine now than man, twisted and evil." Luke sensed the underlying meaning in Kenobi's statement. He heard the words as a command. He shook his head back at the vision. "I can't kill my own father." "You should not think of that machine as your father." It was the teacher speaking again. "When I saw what had become of him, I tried to dissuade him, to draw him back from the dark side. We fought. Your father fell into a molten pit. When your father clawed his way out of that fiery pool, the change had been burned into him forever. He was Darth Vader, without a trace of Anakin Skywalker, irredeemably dark, scarred, kept alive only by machinery and his own black will. Luke looked down at his own mechanical right hand. "I tried to stop him once. I couldn't do it." He would not challenge his father again. He could not. "Vader humbled you when first you met him, Luke. But that experience was part of your training. It taught you, among other things, the value of patience. Had you not been so impatient to defeat Vader then, you could have finished your training here with Yoda. You would have been prepared." "But I had to help my friends." "And did you help them? It was they who had to save you. You achieved little by rushing back prematurely, I fear." Luke's indignation melted, leaving only sadness in its wake. "I found out Darth Vader was my father," he whispered. "To be a Jedi, Luke, you must confront and then go beyond the dark side, the side your father couldn't get past. Impatience is the easiest door, for you, like your father. Only your father was seduced by what he found on the other side of the door, and you have held firm. You're no longer so reckless now, Luke. You are strong and patient, and you are ready for your final confrontation." Luke shook his head again as the implications of the old Jedi's speech became clear. "I can't do it, Ben." Obi-Wan Kenobi's shoulders slumped in defeat. "Then the Emperor has already won. You were our only hope." Luke reached for alternatives. "Yoda said I could train another to—" "The other he spoke of is your twin sister." The old man offered a dry smile. "She will find it no easier than you to destroy Darth Vader." Luke was visibly jolted by this information. He stood up to face this spirit. "Sister? I don't have a sister." Once again, Obi-Wan put a gentle inflection in his voice to soothe the turmoil brewing in his young friend's soul. "To protect you both against the Emperor, you were separated when you were born. The Emperor knew, as I did, that one day, with the Force on their side, Skywalker's offspring would be a threat to him. For that reason, your sister has remained safely anonymous." Luke resisted this knowledge at first. He neither needed nor wanted a twin. He was unique. He had no missing parts, save the hand whose mechanical replacement he now flexed tightly. Pawn in a castle conspiracy? Cribs mixed, siblings switched and parted and whisked away to different secret lives? Impossible. He knew who he was. He was Luke Skywalker, born to a Jedi-turned-Sith Lord, raised on a Tatooine sand farm by Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, raised in a life without frills, a hard-working, honest pauper, because his mother... What was it about his mother? What had she said? Who was she? What had she told him? He turned his mind inward, to a place and time far from the damp soil of Dagobah, to his mother's chamber, his mother and his sister. "Leia! Leia is my sister!" he exclaimed, nearly falling over the stump. "Your insight serves you well," Ben nodded. He quickly became stern, though. "Bury your feelings deep down, Luke. They do you credit, but they could be made to serve the Emperor." Luke tried to comprehend what his old teacher was saying. So much information, so fast, so vital. It almost made him swoon. Ben continued his narrative. "When your father left, he didn't know your mother was pregnant. Your mother and I knew he would find out eventually, but we wanted to keep you both as safe as possible for as long as possible. So I took you to live with my brother Owen on Tatooine. And your mother took Leia to live as the daughter of Senator Organa on Alderaan." Luke settled down to hear this tale, as Artoo nestled up beside him, humming in a sub-audible register to comfort. Ben, too, kept his voice even, so that the sounds could give solace when the words did not. The Organa family was high-born, and politically quite powerful in that system. Leia became a princess by virtue of lineage. No one knew she'd been adopted, of course. But it was a title without real power, since Alderaan had long been a democracy. Even so, the family continued to be politically powerful, and Leia, following in her foster father's path, became a senator as well. That's not all she became, of course. She became the leader of her cell in the alliance against the corrupt empire. And because she had diplomatic immunity, she was a vital link for getting information to the rebel cause. That's what she was doing when her path crossed yours, for her foster parents had always told her to contact me on Tatooine if her troubles became desperate. Luke tried sorting through his multiplicity of feelings. The love he'd always felt for Leia, even from afar, now had a clear basis. But suddenly he was feeling protective toward her as well, like an older brother, even though, for all he knew, she might have been his elder by several minutes.
"But you can't let her get involved now, Ben," he insisted. "Vader will destroy her."
Vader, their father. Perhaps Leia could resurrect the good in him. She hasn't been trained in the ways of the Jedi the way you have, Luke, but the Force is strong with her, as it is with all of your family. That is why her path crossed mine, because the Force in her must be nourished by a Jedi. You're the last Jedi now, Luke, but she returned to us, to me, to learn and grow, because it was her destiny to learn and grow, and mine to teach. He went on more slowly, each word deliberate, each pause emphatic. You cannot escape your destiny, Luke. He locked his eyes on Luke's eyes, and put as much of his spirit as he could into the gaze, to leave it forever imprinted on Luke's mind. Keep your sister's identity secret, for if you fail, she is truly our last hope. Gaze on me now, Luke. The coming fight is yours alone, but much will depend on its outcome, and it may be that you can draw some strength from my memory. There is no avoiding the battle, though. You can't escape your destiny. You will have to face Darth Vader again.